Right here. I'm here today to do kind of a different review. I want to review a bunch of the Owl Crate books that I have been reading. Typically over the summer, I only read contemporary books, and some of these books I just wasn't in the mood to read. So I want to do a wrap-up of 3 of the Owl Crate books that I have been reading and let you know the status on the other Owl Crate books. My ideal goal is by February is to be caught up on all my Owl Crate books, and I do have a couple that I still need to read. But I want to give you guys my brief non-spoiler thoughts on the 3 Owl Crate books that I have finished and my status updates on the other 3. So the first book that I just finished reading yesterday was A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This book was in the July Owl Crate and it was The Wanderlust. This is a monster of a book, but I will say it does not read like a monster of a book. It actually was a really, really quick read. I was recommended to this by someone on the Owl Crate Society page. I was looking for something light and fun to read, and I wasn't in the mood to read anything fantasy, and this is what they recommended, and I actually picked it up, and I actually really enjoyed it. It's an historical fiction novel following this guy named Monty, who's going on, basically, they call it a grand tour. We might now call it like a gap year, and he goes on it with his best friend Percy and his sister Felicity. And Monty is definitely a homosexual man in this time period, and he is definitely in love with his best friend Monty. And it is kind of their adventure of self-discovery and also Felicity's adventure of self-discovery. And I really enjoyed it. I really love the character of Monty, and I love the relationship that he had with Percy, which is his best friend. And I really just loved all the historical issues that we dealt with, like race relations, because Percy is a half white, half black man, and he also has some issues that makes him be seen very negatively in the society. And you also deal with the view on homosexuality and also the thing about women's rights. It reminded me a lot of the issues that I really enjoyed in the Passenger series by Alexandra Bracken, which I also really enjoyed. So I thought that it was done really, really well. And also in the back of this book, this is the Owl Crate exclusive cover, but also in the back of the book, they have historical context where Mackenzie Lee describes it, like what actually happened, where she took creative license. But it was such a fun read. I gave it 4 stars, and I know that there is a sequel coming out that follows Felicity's journey, and I am so here for that. I really loved it. I love Monty so much. I will definitely consider getting the audiobook because I would love to hear him tell me this story. But it was so much fun. If you have not got this book, I highly recommend it. It not only was so fun, there were a lot of unexpected twists and turns and some possible magical elements in it as well. I really, really enjoyed it, so I would highly recommend you read this. A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. The next book that I read was definitely the highlight of this video, and that was Before She Ignites by Jodi Meadows. And this was the September book from the September box, which was Magical Creatures. I love this book so much. I had not read a dragon book in so long, and I had read basically 2 back-to-back. I read this, and I read The Last Nembacera. I love this book. I love the lead character so much, Mira. I thought it was so well done. Cannot wait for the sequel. I really loved how the dragons were represented in this and the characters that we met and what happened to the character of Mira. I thought it was so well done. So captured by it, and I was just really, really excited to read it. It was such a quick read. I will link my review below of all these books. I compiled them into one blog post. But I was really, really happy. This was definitely the highlight of this, and this book has definitely transferred to my keep shelf, which I'm so excited about, and I really am so excited for the sequel. This was the first Jodi Meadows book that I read, and I was so excited for it. I really loved how the dragons had a role in this, and also how it really dealt with political corruption as well, which I really was not expecting, but it was such a fun read, and was definitely one of the highlights of my reading year, because I really enjoyed it a lot. And then the last book in the sequence that I have actually finished reading was Wild Beauty by Anne-Marie McLemore. This is the first Anne-Marie McLemore book that I have read, and this was the October box of Into the Forest. I only gave this book 3 stars. It's a very lyrical story. It's very, very heady, and I did enjoy it. I thought that it was really, really interesting. It basically dealt with this society, this family where all the girls are basically trapped on this plantation, and anyone they fall in love with, their lovers vanish or their lovers disappear. And all of the girls in this story are in love with one girl, and they are so afraid that she is going to vanish. So they make a promise to the garden that if they keep her safe, they will give them something. And in return for that promise, a boy turns up on their farm and they have no idea what's going on. That's basically the start of it. It was a really complicated novel, but really, really beautifully written. And I think it had some really interesting concepts about nature and what men can do to nature. And I really like that. So if you want kind of a much more lyrical story that has a little bit of a magic twist, this I would definitely call this a witchy novel. I would say that they're not really witches, but it has witch elements. I would definitely recommend that you read it. So I really enjoyed all these books. I've said this before and I will say it again. Owl Crate is probably one of my favorite subscription boxes. I probably will never get rid of Owl Crate, but these are my thoughts on these 3 books. Now I will give you some status updates on the other books that I have not read yet. Sandcastle Empire is still on my wrist. I really have heard very good things about it, so I really hope that I can finally read it. And this was the June books. It was called Get Out Alive, and I know that this is considered a standalone, so I really love standalones because there's no, especially now. So this is another monster of a book. This is close to like 400 pages. But I've actually heard really good things. When All Hope Is Gone, How Do You Survive? And I love dystopian novels, which is what this is. I'm trying not to spoil you guys, but if you have watched my unboxing, you will know the last book I'm going to talk about. But this is The Hearts That We Sold, is a witch novel, or it's about demons, and I really want to read this book. I heard that it's so good, so hopefully I will get to read this maybe before the end of the year. And the last one, if you've seen my unboxing, you know what book it is. Here. I'm really excited to read this. This is a book that I also got at New York City Comic-Con. I mean, not BookCon. I wound up getting an arc of it. I will be doing a giveaway of it, I think, hopefully when I read it. But those are all my status updates, and I'm hopeful that by the end of the start of 2018, I will be able to finish all of these books. We will see. But I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later.